J'ouvre.
I now call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 30 of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs.
Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on Monday, November 21st, 2022, the committee is resuming its study on the impact of the new rehabilitation contract awarded by the Department of Veteran Affairs on the role of the case manager and quality of service delivery. La réunion de
Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of Thursday, June 23, 2022. Members may participate in person or via their Zoom application.
En ce qui concerne l'interprétation,
in terms of interpretation, for those who are on Zoom, you have a choice at the bottom of your screen, and I would just like to remind you all that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair.
Conformément à notre
Pursuant to our routine motion regarding connectivity tests, I want to let the committee know that the witnesses went through the necessary testing before the meeting.
And now I would like to welcome, first of all, the clerk, Naaman Shugru. He's there with us. And for the witnesses, I would like to welcome Honorable Lawrence McCauley, Minister of Veteran Affairs. And from the Department of Veteran Affairs, we have with us Paul Ledwell, Deputy Minister, and Stephen Harris, Deputy Minister, Service Delivery Branch. Pour commencer,
and so to begin, I would now like to welcome Honorable Lawrence McCauley, Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Opening statement. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for an invitation to appear today to discuss recent contracting changes to Veterans Affairs Canada's Rehabilitation Service and Supplementary Estimate B, which will be discussed in the second hour. You have heard a number of views from many people, and I would like to take this time to provide you with some facts. Up until this year, there have been two separate contracts in place for the delivery of rehabilitation services and vocational service. Medavie Blue Cross had previously administered all medical and psychosocial rehabilitation services, and all vocational services have been managed by Canadian Veterans Vocational Rehabilitation Services. In June 2021, a new national contract for rehabilitation and psychosocial services was awarded to partners in Canadian Veterans Rehabilitation Services following an open and transparent process. I want to clearly point out that this change was made in consultation with veterans, their families, and with Veterans Affairs Canada staff to ensure that the services we provide to veterans are improved under the new provider, and that the transition from the old system to the new one is seamless. Mr. Chair, this new contract provides 14,000 veterans with vital support and access to more than 9,000 healthcare and expert specialists in 600 locations right across the country. From January to May this year, Veterans Affairs held 2 rounds of consultations with approximately 60 veterans and their families with expertise in the program about how program updates related to the contract might be served better. Their feedback helped us develop a strategy to best meet their needs. For example, they want shorter wait times for service reports, as well as timely service from case managers and service providers. They also ask for more connection time with their case workers. This contract addresses these concerns with national consistency, standardized and timely rehab assessments, and service to help veterans improve their overall well-being. A third round of consultations is planned for early in 2023 for veterans who are part of the first phase of the migration over the new contract. Within the department, there are 3 main working groups that meet several times a year. These were made up of various employees from among others, field operations, IT, performance measurement, and national learning units, and stakeholder engagements. The Union of Veterans Affairs was also identified several employees, most of whom were caseworkers, to participate in various working groups. The department presented 6 town hall sessions for case managers and other service delivery staff, with more planned every 6 to 8 weeks as we continue to migration of veterans to the new contractor. Approximately 800 people attended each of the last 2 town halls. Training material also provided to ensure that case managers have the information they need when they need it as the system becomes available. And training will continue during the transition phase and until full implementation to ensure staff are fully engaged and comfortable with the new contractor. The thoughts, concerns, and perspectives that we've heard have helped shape how services will be delivered to veterans and their families. When they were consulted, our case managers asked for more manageable workload and fewer administrative tasks. Under this contract, they will no longer have to help veterans find providers in the community, write rehab plan goals, or chase providers for reports that are supposed to come in every 30 days. With these tasks transferred over to the new service providers, case managers can see a reduction of up to 15 hours a month in administration burden once all clients have been migrated to the new provider. This will allow more time for veterans and rehab needs, just as our case managers and vets wanted. Simply put, the contract will not mean any reduction in case management of Veterans Affairs. Caseworkers are not healthcare workers or professional specialists, and this is not work they have ever done at Veterans Affairs. We greatly value the work our case managers do, and that's why we are focused on helping them spend more time with veterans and clients and do their administrative tasks.
The 5 minutes is
Thank
up.
you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister. And je voudrais aussi...
I would also like to welcome one of our colleagues, Greg Fergus, who is replacing another of our members, Ms. Wilton Meow.
And I invite Mr. Blake Richards for 6 minutes or less. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and Minister. I want to get to some of the details of the contract in a moment, but first, last time you were before this committee, you were discussing medical assistance in dying, and you indicated to us that there were four veterans who had this issue raised with them by one particular caseworker, and that had been referred to the RCMP. Since that time, I know I'm certainly now aware of at least 8 veterans who have had this occur, and there has been at least 3 additional case managers or service agents involved in this. So we're at a situation where we've got 8 veterans and probably as many as 4 case workers. And that includes Bruce, who I mentioned to you last time, as well as the one that obviously was raised in last Thursday's meeting and has been in the media quite extensively since, and that's the case of Christine Gauthier, who's in a wheelchair because of injuries she suffered serving in this country and has been fighting with Veterans Affairs for 5 years to try to get a lift put in her house. And as she said, she has told us, has been fought by Veterans Affairs every step of the way. She puts it well. She said Veterans Affairs won't help her to live her life, but they have offered to help her die. That is a statement that just hits everyone, I think, that hears it, and it's something we should all be concerned about. Now, she wrote to you about that back in July of 2021, and at that point in time, you were aware of this and did nothing until August of 2022, when another veteran's case hit the media. Can you tell us, Minister, why did you do nothing from July of 2021 onwards and put other veterans' lives at risk?
Thank you very much, and I first of all, Christine and anybody else that's out there that has any difficulty with this or has been involved in this issue, we want them to come forward. With Christine, we want to work with her to make sure we help and provide any service that we can in order to help her. But I would tell you that we have reviewed our files, and what I indicated last week, 2 weeks ago, I believe, here before the committee, I indicated quite clearly that there was 4 cases involving one case manager, totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Veterans Affairs does not provide maid services at all. But what I can tell you is we have found nobody else that has indicated to. We find no information.
So, Minister,
let me answer the question. You asked the question.
Well, sure, but let me interrupt, because you're telling me that you still believe that there's only 4 when we've had Christine Gauthier come forward, we've had Bruce come forward, and I'm aware of at least a couple of others. Now, granted, they haven't come forward, but what we know that a couple of them have. And Minister, beyond that, in July of 2021, you say you want them to come forward. Christine Gauthier came to you in July of 2021. She did come forward, and you did nothing. Do you not see that as a problem?
Stated quite clearly that in your statement, I believe, that Christine Gauthier was offered this service. I have to be very careful what I indicate about specific files.
Excuse me.
But I believe that I would have to ask my deputy to respond. I just want to be careful. I do not want to affect the investigation.
Sure.
What we want to find out is exactly what happened, when it happened, and who was involved. But I would ask my deputy to respond to that.
And just before that, you do that, the Minister, I can appreciate that you don't want to do anything that would cause a harm to the investigation. However, can you tell us, have you done anything? I mean, you were aware of this case back in July of 2021, clearly didn't pay attention to it, but now, at least that it's come to light in the media and in this committee since last Thursday, have you investigated what happened or done anything to try to investigate what happened in that period of time? Thank
you very much. As I indicated previously at the meeting, upon hearing this, I asked my deputy to conduct an investigation. They're in doing that. I indicated to them, I was briefed a couple of weeks ago, and I asked my deputy to expand the investigation, and he has done that. It has been referred to the RCMP. That has been done. What we want to do is make fully sure that anybody that has any difficulty in this way, but I think in all fairness, we have to let the deputy respond to the what you indicated to the committee.
Sure.
That's what I have done. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. And just before you do that,
no, you're not going to let.
Yeah.
You're not going to let me speak.
Minister. Sure, I will. But you're the one responsible, and this was brought to your attention in July of 2021, and you did nothing for over a year. Now you're telling us, well, there's an investigation. Great, that's wonderful, and we're glad to see that's happening. But you keep telling us that there's 4. We know there is more than 4. And without a doubt, I'm aware that the previous case that came in the media, that the agent involved is in British Columbia. Christine Gauthier is located in Quebec. She had indicated I heard her on a podcast this weekend where she indicated she had 2 separate caseworkers that both suggested maid to her. One was male and one was female. So there is more than one caseworker involved here. There clearly is. So I wonder what you've done to investigate it. And can you maybe tell us, if you're, whoever's going to answer it, how many total times has your investigation uncovered that maid has been brought up in either a call?
Excuse me, Mr. Richards, I'm sorry. The 6 minutes, it's way over. So please leave some time to the witnesses to answer questions. So now I'd like to go to Mr. Sean Casey for 6 minutes or less. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay? Mr. Minister, several times you attempted to answer Mr. Richards' questions and he interrupted you. You have the full 6 minutes to provide whatever additional information you tried unsuccessfully to present to the committee. Go ahead, Minister.
Thank you very much. First of all, there's been an indication made that I received information that somebody wrote to me indicating that that maid had been discussed with them. Overall, it's not the case. It is not the case. I would like my deputy to respond to this to the specific issue that came to light here last day we were at committee, because it's only fair that the facts be brought out.
So thanks, Mr. Chair, to respond to the questions that have been raised. And as indicated at the last appearance before a committee, 402,000 unique veteran files have been reviewed for any specific reference of MAID being raised inappropriately with a veteran. 402,000 unique files. Through those files, we've isolated 4 cases involving one individual. If there's other information that needs to come forthcome that is not represented in those files, we'd like to see that. The minister's been clear about that. We've invited veterans to come forward. If they're not comfortable coming forward to the department, they're welcome to come forward to the Veterans Ombudsman. On the specifics of Veteran Gauthier, who was here before committee last Thursday, those files have been reviewed. They were reviewed as part of that 402,000 and through that full review. They've subsequently been reviewed based on the issues that the veteran raised on Thursday. There's no indication in the files, in any correspondence, in any notation based on engagement with the veteran of reference to MAID. If the veteran has material and indication of that, we, again, as we've invited for other veterans, would welcome seeing that, reviewing that, and making that part of our investigation. It's critically important, as the Minister has underlined and as we have stated repeatedly, that we get to the bottom of this, the full breadth of this, and we address the issue. To this point, 4 cases have been established, 1 single employee.
I would also urge you, Mr. Richards, if you do have information, what we're trying to do is get to the bottom of this issue. We have the investigation in place. We have some facts from the investigation. We want to make sure that we get to the bottom of this issue, and I would ask anybody at the committee, any veteran, anybody that's listening, to please bring any information they have forward. What we need to know the facts, and that's what we want to see happen, because we want to make sure that veterans feel comfortable and to come to Veterans Affairs. It's very important to realize there are thousands of employees at Veterans Affairs Canada, and they truly care. They're hurt by this. We want to make sure that we get this situation rectified, and rectified as quickly as possible. That is what we're trying to do, and that is what we will do. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. The reason why you were invited to come to the committee today was to talk about the contract. So how about if we do that? I'd like to refer you specifically to some of the testimony that we heard from the president of the Union of Veterans Affairs Employees and invite you to respond. Virginia Vaillancourt, when she testified before committee, said that case managers fear that through the new rehab contract, veterans will lose their human face-to-face contact with someone who will be an ally, an advocate, and quite often a trusted friend to their families during some pretty dark times. Minister, how would you respond to that fear as expressed by the union president of case managers?
Thank you very much. Well, of course, with this new contract, there's 14,000 veterans, approximately, probably a few over 14,000 veterans that depend on this type of contract. They have access to 9,000 experts, health experts and other experts, in 600 locations right across Canada in order to make sure that they're able to address their needs. Why this new contract was put together, basically putting 2 contracts together, and the caseworkers asked us in consultation to make sure, or try to make sure, that they have more time to spend with veterans. With this contract, they have more time to serve with veterans. They have about 15 hours a week, approximately 2 days more with this situation alone, because they don't have to do the administrative work. They don't have to find the different experts in the field right across the country. The contract has people in place in order to do that. That's what we want to make sure. My job is to make sure we provide the best services we possibly can for veterans in the best way we can, where they need it, when they need it, and that's what we're doing with this contract. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Ms. Vaillancourt also said that the bigger question is whether we want the face of service to veterans to be a kind, caring, and compassionate case manager or a for-profit corporation who serves their shareholders. How would you respond to that critique, Minister?
Well, thank you very much. Of course, this is not a new, this is a combined, it's a new contract, but it's not a new way of doing things. It's just a better way of doing things. And I thank you. I think my time is up.
Exactly, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Casey. And I also want to welcome our colleague Mark Dalton, who subbed for Cathy Rogenthal. He's on the screen. Et maintenant,
And now we'll give the floor to Mr. Luc Desilets for the next 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to greet our witnesses again this morning. Minister, I see you have a lot of energy this morning. Last week, it's true that we heard from Christine Gauthier, and you're familiar with the file, but I'm just going to recall the facts. 2018, the woman moved. She needed an elevator for her new home. Now, there was a problem with the installation. Ms. Gauthier had to bring forward another request because there was some red tape that was quite bothersome and heavy. She still didn't have an elevator in 2022. So she's been waiting for 5 years. And I'm not even going to go into the details of medical assistance in dying. Her file has been waiting for a long time, and she has to figure out how to get out of her own house. Sometimes she has to figure out a way to get down the stairs, almost like figuring out how a worm would get down the stairs. And I don't know why there hasn't been faster action. It's been 5 years, Minister. So can you please guarantee that you are going to pay specific attention to this case? Because it's not humane at all. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Luke. And I do know you care about veterans, and I appreciate that. On individual files, I'm not supposed to discuss them, and I won't. But the issue that you've raised has been raised, so I will certainly make it a priority to do everything we can. But that does not mean that we can provide everything that an individual asks for. We will do everything we can under the regulations in order to make sure that this veteran receives what she truly needs. She went out front for us, protected us, and I fully understand that, and it's vitally important that we do that. I think on the file itself, which I don't deal with individual files, but on this one I have mentioned to the deputy that I hope it can get some specific attention, and I think it would be appropriate for him to expand on that.
Monsieur le ministre, je comprends, mais vous savez.
Minister, I understand, but as you know, the request has been accepted. We're talking about a few $1,000s for the installation, so it has been approved, so things just have to be sped up. Now, my second question is this, and you can decide who answers. When you're a minister and things aren't done properly, there are ways to deal with this. For example, through the Ombudsman, through the Auditor General, the Commissioner of Official Languages, the Parliamentary Budget Officer. They're all there to help orient us and to let us know how we can adjust our way of doing things. Now, here's my concern. How will we be able to make sure that the company, the consortium, will provide adequate services? Do they have to be accountable in some way? Will there be any analysis of the quality of their services, and how will that be done if so?
Thank you very much, Luke, and I can fully assure you that...
Comme vous voulez, Monsieur le ministre.
As you wish, Minister, go ahead. I thought perhaps one of your colleagues would answer, but go ahead if you want to be the one to respond.
Go, it's okay.
Did you more say that? Mr. Desilets, yes, we did make sure, and I believe it's fair to say there are more Francophone specialists available in Quebec, and there are more Francophone specialists available outside of Quebec with this contract. But on the details of the I wanted to make sure of that, but on the details of the contract, the deputy can respond. Or Stephen.
Peut-être très rapidement, je peux dire que...
Well, quickly, I'll say that there are performance measures. They're included in the contract, not only for the contractor in order to make sure that they're able to reach their targets, but also in the department. The department will also be following up and auditing. So this will be done based on the contract, and there will be performance measures that will be used. And the department, as I was saying, will make sure that all is going well. Now, if there are problems within the contract as well, or any problems, the veterans can approach us to make sure that we follow up.
Est-ce que le bureau de l'Ombudsman ou la vérificatrice
Will the Ombudsman's office or the Auditor General be able to conduct their own audit? Not necessarily on the contract, but we do work closely with them to make sure that if there are any issues with the contract, we're able to resolve these issues within the department.
On le verra probablement dans 6 mois.
Well, I guess we'll see in about 6 months or 1 year when we will be able to see some results. Now, you know what my other concerns are. Francophones. Within those 9,000 health experts who will be dealing with our veterans, do you know how many will be from Quebec and how many will have French as their mother tongue? Well, I can simply answer that at the time, it's more or less the same number under this contract. There will be about 500 within Quebec, and the contractor is making sure that these contractors will be able to provide these services. So it's more or less the same as the previous contract. Okay, so if we're talking about the proportion compared to the number of veterans, there would be the same numbers offering services in French. You have 10 seconds. Approximately, yes. As I said earlier, it's more or less the same number as with the current contract. But we are always on the lookout. We are always trying to make sure that their performance is appropriate.
To turn the floor to Ms. Rachel Blenay for 6 minutes or less. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair, and I thank all of you for being here today as witnesses. And I guess where I want to start is, first of all, just by acknowledging how many veterans are in the audience today hearing from this committee, and I want to recognize them and thank them so much for their service. And I do, before I get into the service delivery concern that I think many of us share, I do just want to acknowledge that it's been a difficult period of time. We've heard stories from multiple veterans, some of them publicly, some of them anonymously, about their concerns about being offered access to MAID, which we know legally doesn't really make any sense. We've heard that there's been letters that have been sent both to yourself, Minister, and to the Prime Minister. And we know that what I heard earlier is that if veterans want to come forward to VAC, that there's an openness to that and an encouragement of that. And if they don't feel safe, that they can go to the Veterans Ombudsman. So I understand that, and I do hope that veterans come forward. This is very serious. But I'm just going to come back to the fact that we still know that there is no recording by Veterans Affairs of conversations that happen. And so right now what I understand is a basic search for those discussions go through case files. And I'm just wondering if there's any exploration of this and if veterans want their conversations to be recorded. If there's any consideration of looking at this, because it seems to me that we're getting into a position where it becomes very much he said, she said. And veterans deserve better. They served our country. And I just want to make sure that we don't let this fall down. If there's a big concern that we need to address, we want to see it done, and we want to see it done well. And part of that is having something that we can go back to make sure that this never happens again. So I'll leave that to you, Minister, to respond to.
Thank you, Ms. Blaney. The he said, she said, I want to make it crystal clear. I received no information indicating that MAID was used. I did not receive any information on that issue concerning last Thursday's and any other that I know of. in any letters that I received. But I certainly agree that this has to be dealt with, and that's why, as you know, I want to make sure that I give you the facts. What I want to do is make sure you have the facts, and the facts are that there are, at this time, and there's an investigation on, there are 4 people, and there's one case manager, and that's unacceptable. But that's where we are at the moment. It has to be referred to the RCMP just so we make sure that you know that this is what we're doing.
And
but
I'm sorry to interrupt, Minister, but the point that I'm really curious about, is there any discussions about recording conversations so that we can do this? Because I don't think any veteran in this country wants to feel like they haven't told the truth. And that's what I'm concerned about at this point, is there's this sense of we didn't know, are you telling us? And I want to honor veterans' truth and their experience. This is very important because they need to feel safe. So will there be any discussions moving forward about recording conversations or even allowing for the option that if a veteran wants a conversation to be recorded, that it will be?
First of all, of course, I want you to know that it's the Privacy Act, of course, and why most veterans want to make sure it's private. And that's why I want you to be fully sure, just so you know.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that.
Please give me the chance. The fact is, you have to know truly that I did not receive any information on the issue that was discussed here last Friday concerning Maine.
Okay.
Other issues.
Can I get onto the service?
But you're right.
I think you've answered the question. The answer is no. I'm confused about
The
that
answer is,
because immigration does record those conversations, but that's fine. So I just wanted to go back to the fact that we did have a service provider testify last week on her over 20 years of providing direct services. She did all the forms that she was supposed to at the beginning, and then she received the form to fill out, and she did not have any of the services that she provided was on the form. So she requested from that information so that she would fill out that form properly. She has still not heard anything back. So I'm just wondering, when you have a service provider that has worked with veterans for over 20 years, I would assume we don't want to lose that kind of experience. So what is happening and why, what systems are in place to make sure that when they ask for information, they get it so that they're not just off the list and their experience gone?
I can assure you we don't want to lose any experts in Veterans Affairs Canada, and caseworkers definitely play a major role in this issue. But on case by case, and that's why I have to be careful what I say about cases, but I will turn it over to my deputy on this specific case.
Thanks, and Mr. Chair, if I could, on these kinds of issues, absolutely we don't want to lose service providers. We are reliant on those service providers and meeting the needs of veterans at every level and through every vantage that we have in terms of supports for veterans. In some cases where information is being sought, we do have to do a review on the privacy element of this, if this is information that is being shared externally.
So just so you know, this isn't about services. This is about, she provides, for example, occupational therapy. When she got the form about what services she could provide, that wasn't an option for her. Okay. So she said, which part of the form do I click? So this is the problem, is that, and how long? It took very long. She still hasn't heard back. It's been a couple of months.
Quick answer, please.
Thank you,
10
Chair.
seconds.
Forms. The whole idea is to increase the number of service providers, especially on that geographic and on that expertise level. So.
Thank you, Ms. Bliney. And now let's go for the second round. And I invite our first VP of the committee, Mr. Blake Richards, for 5 minutes or less. Please.
Thank you. Just to kind of wrap up our previous discussion, I mean, I think it's fairly clear to see why veterans fail to have trust in and confidence in you and your department. When you, despite hearing, you know, the case of the veteran known as Bruce coming forward and indicating that he was offered medical assistance in dying, despite hearing that Christine Gauthier came to this committee and indicated that there was 2 separate agents that offered her medical assistance in dying when she was seeking for help in getting a lift put into her house. And then you wonder why veterans don't feel comfortable coming forward when you sit here and tell us we still think there's only 4 cases, despite the fact that you've got veterans who have come forward, and in one case came to you as early as 2021, well before this ever made the media, and you sit here and continue to tell us, oh, there's only 4, and there's only 1 agent, when veterans have clearly indicated that that's not, in fact, accurate. So I really hope, Minister, that you're going to go away from this meeting and think really long and hard about how you've failed our veterans in this regard, and how you're going to have to do better because you've put potentially veterans' lives at risk. Now, I want to move specifically to the contract, and I want to ask you about the contract and your how would you say that the transition period has gone, Minister? And is there anything that you would have done differently if you could go back in time?
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. I doubt nobody wants to indicate that it's not safe or good for veterans to go to Veterans Affairs Canada. I would expect nobody at this committee would ever want to portray that to the public. We have a large thousands of staff who are fully dedicated to the veteran. And as far as the names that you've mentioned, I do not deal with specific cases. Mr. Bruce, I have never met.
So, Minister,
you
Minister,
asked me a question, Mr. Richards, and I would just like to have the courtesy of answering it.
I asked you a question about the contract and the transition.
You said a number of things.
Well, sure, I made some comments.
And I'm making comments too, and I got the right to do it.
Excuse me, I stopped.
I'm asking you a question, and I'd like an answer.
Mr. Richards, excuse me, I stopped your time, your 5 minutes. For the translation, please.
Sure.
If you ask a question, if you have a question 1 minute, it should be an answer about 1 minute too. So please,
just on a point of order, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. When I ask the minister a question, if you're asking us not to cause an issue for translation, could I ask you then as chair to try and hold the minister to be relevant to the question that I've asked, which in this case was about the transition of the contract and how he felt it has gone and what he would have done differently. And I didn't hear anything that was addressing the question.
I understand that, but it was at the beginning of his answer, so please let him go, and we'll see if it's relevant or not.
Same point of order, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would
the
like
minister's trying to kill time so that we can't actually get to the heart of the questions that we're trying to ask.
The time is stopped. Mr. Casey, point of order?
Mr. Chair, could I?
Just, Mr. Casey, point of order?
Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that the witness is allowed to have as much time to answer the question as the member has in posing it. This member repeatedly poses long-winded questions and then attempts to interrupt the minister over and over again when he tries to do that. I think if there's an opportunity for the chair to intervene to maintain a fair exchange, it would be to put a bit of a halt on the interruptions until the minister has been allotted the same amount of time as the person posing the question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Mr. Richards.
So on that point, certainly I think we all appreciate that when someone is asked a question, they should be given some time to answer it. The problem in many cases that we're having here is that when you ask a question, the question is not being answered, and other things are being brought up, and so. I would just ask that you as chair, please try to hold the minister to some semblance of trying to respond to the question rather than to fill time.
Yes. I'd like to tell everyone in the committee, and even though the witnesses, please, how do we say that? It's important for us, the meeting that we have, and it's also important for the veterans who are watching us, so please, let's act accordingly.
Yes, and
go ahead.
And thank you for that, Chair. And certainly, I agree. There are a number of veterans in the room today, and we thank them for their service. And I know they're here to hear some of the answers, and I'm sure there's many others watching elsewhere. So let's try to reset and start again. Can I ask you, Minister, how would you say the transition has gone, and what would you have done differently if you could go back in time, if anything?
I'd like to answer the first part of the statements, but I will tell you that the transition has just started. My understanding is going very well, but we've had a number of information sessions leading up to this to make sure that the transition went well. In September 2021, we had a session. In December 2021, we had a session, and we will have another session in next March. What we're working to make sure is that this contract works better for veterans. We have more access for more experts in more areas across the country, in more locations. So that's what veterans wanted, and that's what we're providing.
Well, we've heard different from every other person we've heard before this committee, Minister, whether it be veterans, whether it be service providers, or whether it be VAC employees themselves, that they have no idea what's going on, and they really think that there is a real lack of consultation and information. So when you say it's gone very well, I think you might want to re-examine that. Now, Minister, can you tell me, were you aware that during the period of time in the transition here, so the period of time from October 25th through to November 29th when this took effect, that no new mental health services were being provided to clients? Were you aware of that, Minister, and what do you have to say about that?
No, first of all, I want to assure you that people were invited to those sessions to make sure that the transition went well, and there has been no gap between services, between the old contract and the new contract, and the deputy who is in charge of it can expand on that if you wish, but that's exactly the answer.
You're saying that, but the documentation that's provided by your department says differently. It says case managers are requested to not create any new medical or psychosocial services for any new participants during the period October 25th to November 22nd, which ended up being November 29th. So, Minister, can you tell us, I mean, again, this is a situation where veterans' lives may have been put at risk because they were not being provided the services that they needed. And that's because of a decision of your department, and you seem to be unaware of it. Please tell us, what are you going to do to ensure that you're not going to allow decisions like this to be made that put veterans' lives at risk? We've seen that now with medical assistance in dying, where you ignored something you heard from a veteran, and we're seeing it now where you seem to be unaware of the communication from your own department. Please, Minister, we have to take this far more seriously.
Minister, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much.
Respond.
I can assure you all the services were available through Veterans Affairs Canada. I'll let my deputy.
Mr. Chair, I can say that no veteran was denied service during that period of time. Anyone who came forward, any veteran who came forward with a need for service, mental health, psychosocial supports were provided with those services. That communication was about the transfer of files.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Dewell.
Dewell. Thank you. And now, for 5 minutes, I'd like to invite on the screen Mrs. Richie Valdez for 5 minutes or less.
Thank you, Minister McCauley and the department for joining. Minister, did you have any further answers to the questions that were had, or were you able to finish your train of thought? I just wanted to confirm.
No, I'd like to indicate before we get to the end of it what improvements are incorporated in this new contract. Services are customized to each veteran and family member, unique backgrounds and needs, and to strive for Indigenous and culturally sensitive approach and methods. Continued access to rehabilitation services in the language of your choice. 24/7 access to an online portal where veterans and family members can submit claims, manage appointments, and access resources. Veterans and family members will have a chance to share their experience and satisfaction with the program, input that will help us make sure that the rehabilitation and vocational assistance programs is the best that we can. Essentially, and there's quite a number of other things, but I appreciate the time to be able to say that we're providing more service with more people in more areas, but I'll let Richard, you could expand on it probably, but that's what we're doing.
I think it's fair to say, as the minister's indicated, the key interest here is to make sure that veterans have access to expert supports, no matter where they live. Across the country, in urban settings, in rural settings, it's about making sure that not only the rehabilitation specialist is there, but the specialists that are there to support them from a medical, psychosocial point of view. So if you need access to physiotherapy, psychology, occupational therapists, others, that those services are provided. And they can be provided whether that's in an in-person site or they can be provided remotely as well. We've seen many of our providers adapt over the course of the COVID period, which is a really significant benefit for our veterans who can reach people from a distance. No matter where they live, they can reach experts to help them in their rehabilitation needs.
Thank you. I just want to mention this. So in this committee, we've heard from several case managers from VAC that testified how much they cared for veterans and how hard they really work hard every day to ensure that each veteran's needs are taken care of. They shared their passion and their concern for veterans. And so I just want to encourage veterans who continue to listen to this committee. I'm encouraging you to continue to seek help from VAC because there are case managers who care and who are waiting to hear from you while this investigation continues. So I just wanted to share that. On to my questions. With the new contract, Minister, and to the department, can you clarify what the average ratio of case manager would be to veteran to continue to provide that strong level of service to them?
Thank you very much. I can tell you it's 30-1 at the moment, but if you want to expand further, the deputy could expand further on the program itself and how it works.
So the minister is correct. The current ratio is 30-1, if I could, Mr. Chair. And that is an improvement. We've been seeking to improve our ratio. We know that our target is 25-1, so we are not at the target, but we are getting closer to that. It's really important, as has been underlined by the minister in testimony, that we are allowing case managers to spend more time with their veteran. The case manager is the main point of contact, is the direct link between the veteran and their needs, and is there to ensure that the veteran has what they need and their family has what they need. So having more time to spend with that veteran, having more time to plan out is really critical. So it's not just about the quantity in terms of the ratio, it's also about the quality. And that's really critical. We've got 482 case managers at Veterans Affairs Canada supporting greater than 14,000 veterans with complex and significant needs. They do this work very passionately.
I would agree with you there. My question is, in this committee, there were concerns expressed in the past about having more long-term case managers and front staff versus short-term staff. So just wanted to hear if you can comment on whether this contract can assist with, having more long-term staff.
Well, of course, thank you very much. We always want to make sure that we have enough of staff in place in order, as you know, the ratio with case managers 30-1. The backlog is a problem. We have invested in both areas, and both areas are going in the right direction. We're not there yet, but it's coming to where it should be. What we have to do is make sure we have the appropriate staff in place and the programs in place that help veterans live as good a life as they possibly can. And that's what we're committed to do, and that's what we will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And to the veterans in the room, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mrs. Valdez. Et là, nous allons avoir deux.
Now we have time for two very short, 2.5-minute interventions. Luc Desilets, it is your turn. Thank you. I have a question for you, Minister. Why did the implementation of the program go from the 22nd to the 29th of November? Well, it's not the contract that was implemented late. It was part of a system that supported the veterans and also VAC staff. So we were adding to a system that they were already using. It's almost like adding a new chapter to a system. We wanted to make sure that it was ready and working as when we started, and that's why we delayed that by 6 days. Now, am I to understand that the consortium wasn't ready? We really wanted to make sure that everything was working smoothly, that there was nothing wrong in the system. We wanted to make sure that everything was working well for everyone. So there was no impact on services to veterans. Thank you. During our last meeting here at committee, there were many questions that were asked about transparency and consultation that was undertaken on this. Now, you said that there were about 100 people who were asked about this, who were asked to give their opinion to you and their feedback. But we heard a very different version here from union leaders, for example, who said that there was no consultation, that they weren't consulted. Do you still maintain that there were a good 100 people consulted?
I can assure you that the union, case managers, I had a list, IT, there's a number of different groups connected with Veterans Affairs Canada that were involved all the way. And as you realize, this contract was signed a year and a half ago. But we want to make sure that people understand, too, this is not a new idea. This is just an improved idea to make it better for veterans. That's what we are doing.
Est-ce que c'est une donnée qui...
In that case, unless it's confidential, could we have a list of the people who were consulted and the positions they hold? I don't think we can share the list of names, but we can tell you the numbers of veterans and the numbers of organizations that were consulted, whether that's within or outside the department. Well, I think that would be very relevant information for the committee, so thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Desilets, and I'm now going to give the floor to Ms. Rachel Blaney. You have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm very concerned about this because what I've heard from numerous case managers, from numerous veterans, is that the numbers of people providing services have gone down rather than up. That concerns me. It feels like we're being sold a bag of goods. It says 9,000 service providers, which is less than what was before. I understand that, and I've heard this directly from service providers, that their pay level has gone down because of this contract. So they're getting less money to provide the same services that they were providing before. So that's very concerning. I certainly hope that's addressed in a meaningful way because I don't want good service providers to stop providing valued services to veterans because they aren't making what they used to make for the same work. Makes no sense. We also have heard that the PCVRS and the RS rehab service specialists don't know how to get the clinical care manager in place for veteran. That used to be put in place through Blue Cross, but there is a gap, so that position doesn't seem to be clear. And then we heard from service providers who are trying to provide the services, trying to fill out the appropriate work. They did the expression of interest. Then they get the form. The services that they provide are not on the list. They're trying to figure out from the office, where do I put it? Is this a different category? Can you explain the form to me? And they are not getting answers for months, which now means they are not providing the service because the deadline has passed. So I am really concerned. We also heard from multiple case managers that the process that unfolded didn't make a lot of sense. They didn't know how to do it. They were concerned about providing their services to the veteran. They're worried because many of their jobs are not steady. They're often part-time, but temporary work. So, I look at all this, and then based on the testimony we had in this committee from case managers, we got multiple case managers emailing our committee saying, yes, we totally agree with this testimony. So it seems to me that there's all of these issues. How are they going to be addressed, and how is this committee going to be made aware that these issues are being dealt with in a meaningful way so that veterans get the services that they deserve?
Minister, you only have 30 seconds to answer the question.
Chair, you're skimp on my time, but whatever, Ms. Blaney, the fact is there are more experts in the field than less, and that will expand. There are more sites available now than there was, and that will expand. And the consultation process was held with key stakeholders and subject matter experts with Veterans Affairs Canada, case managers, field representatives, and the union.
Thank you.
We made sure we had everybody involved we could possibly involve. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. There's going to be 2 last interventions, and for 5 minutes each. And I'd like to invite on the screen Mr. MP Fraser Tolmie for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Minister, vets come from a career where other people's lives depend on them, and their lives depend on others. Trust is their code. their culture. It is a culture of trust. This is fundamental core value, is essential when a vet hands over that trust to a caseworker. But from what I can see and from my chair, trust is broken. Whether it's a rollout of this contract where there has been very little or no consultation, this breaks that trust further between the vet who is waiting on proper care. What has been shared by you in this committee and past meetings doesn't line up with what is going on with those who have come forward and shared their testimonies. This investigation that you speak of concerning MAID is actually just a review of files. More has come out from media sources and podcasts and this committee than what has come out from you providing information to this committee. In fact, you've had to answer to these revelations rather than reporting them. Ms. Gauthier showed up with a suitcase of files and personal notes not addressed. Has Veteran Affairs created a loophole for MAID?
I'm sorry you would ask that question, but you can ask what you wish. The fact is, absolutely not. There was four situations developed by one caseworker that was totally unacceptable. When I heard about it, I made sure the RCMP, or that the deputy conducted an investigation, and then I asked him to extend the investigation, and the RCMP are now involved. But you talk about trust. Trust is so vitally important. We have thousands of Veterans Affairs staff who truly work hard, care so much about veterans that you spoke about. The facts are the facts that I just gave you. Investigations, if the fact changes, we want to know what the facts are that change. But somebody can't just say something about something somewhere. We have to have some facts somewhere, and we have to deal with facts as far as this is concerned. And if there are more people out there, if you have more information out there, we want to know it. The department wants to know it. Make sure that we address this appropriately.
Thank you. Mr. Tolby, go ahead, please.
Yes. Well, number one, we should not be doing the investigation for you. And that's where the breakdown of trust has come, Mr. Minister. No one trusts you. They're not coming forward to you because they don't trust this department. And this lies squarely on you, sir. What are you going to do to regain that trust within this department and within those vets who are looking for help?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Tolmy. Just a second. We have a translation problem.
Tout à fait, la traduction française ne...
Yes, the French isn't working.
Could you explain it to him, please, what to do? Okay, Mr. Tolmy, could you unplug and replug your headset, please, because we have problem with translations. So can you just say...
Is that okay?
No, it's not good. Yeah, try it again.
I'll try this one more time.
Yes.
There we go. How about if I put my mic down a little bit?
Yeah. No, we still have a problem with your sound, with translations.
Okay, I'll unplug one more time.
Yeah. But by the time you're doing that, I think that you already asked your questions to the minister, so he can answer, and there is 2 minutes left.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And obviously, if people feel like my honourable colleague has indicated, they can talk to the ombudsperson, which will directly inform the department of whatever issue should come forward. What I want to do is make sure that veterans feel fully comfortable to come to Veterans Affairs. We have an issue, a totally unacceptable issue. We're dealing with the issue, but what we have to do is to make sure that veterans feel comfortable to come to Veterans Affairs. And I am not conducting the investigation. It's the department and the RCMP that's conducting the investigation. But as I said many times, what we want to do is make sure that we get the facts. And if you have facts that will assist the investigation, please bring them forward. But we need facts. And if we have facts, we will deal with them. But what's vitally important with all the programs, you're fully aware of all the programs we put in place.
Thank you, Minister.
Since 15.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left. Let's try with Mr. Tolby. Just a second. I think that your sound is not good enough. Mr. Desilets?
Bon, je ne sais pas ce que vous allez faire pour...
I don't know what you're going to be doing next, but Mr. Tolmy's question was asked in English, and I did not get the interpretation into French. Now, I didn't necessarily want to intervene while the minister was speaking, but I didn't hear the question. Well then, I believe a technician has tried to call Mr. Tolmy.
Share your time. Maybe one of your colleagues will be... We have 1 minute left. So
Okay, well, I'll just
say...
if everybody can switch off their mics in the room, and I'll speak. Now, I just have one more question, Mr.
No,
Point of order.
It's not good. It's not good for the translation. It's not working. I'm so sorry. So maybe who would like to take this one last minute? So I invite Mr. Dordel for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I've just been on this committee for a short period of time, and since I've been here, there's been 3 issues, and all 3 have, quite frankly, been a fail. We have the contract, and now the backlog as well. It seems to be quite consistent. I know in most organizations, I don't know if there's been performance reviews put on how this department's run. I've been very disappointed with it, so I'm kind of curious to that. But also, most organizations, even an NHL hockey team, for instance, if they have this kind of treatment, there's usually the coach or the general manager or somebody has to come forward and come clean. And from what I've seen from this, I'm extremely disappointed. So I guess my question is, Mr. Minister, you sat here and said basically that nothing seems to be your responsibility, whether it's the investigation, and I get that it's separate, but there has to be some onus on you and the disappointment that's going on.
In 15 seconds, please, Minister.
Yes, I do have a responsibility to make sure that we deliver to veterans in a timely manner as possible the programs that we put in place. And the backlog is down to from 22,000 to 8,500 or 8,500. We are working full-time to make sure that we address the backlog. We're working to make sure that veterans receive the compensation they truly deserve. We have done that, and we will continue to do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dordel. And now I invite, for the last question on this panel, Mr. Torrance Rogers for 5 minutes or less.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Minister, thank you for being here again. You and your officials have been frequent visitors to this committee, and your contribution is appreciated in order to rectify or some misconceptions or to provide some facts on the things that have been addressed as regards to the rehab contract. I know I've been mystified by some of the responses that we've gotten from some of our witnesses at some points in time, and I've sought clarification, and I'm happy to hear that the Deputy Minister and yourself are rectifying some of these comments. I realize this is really challenging to move to a new system, and every time you move to a new system, of course, there are people who challenge what you do because they are so used to doing things in a certain way. So what I want to ask you is exactly, what this contract will do so that you can repeat that for the record. And what is different from the 2 previous contracts that were in place? And how many veterans will be supported by the services provided under this this new contract?
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. The fact is there'll be over 14,000 veterans served with this contract. The contract will, at this time, has 9,000 experts in 600 locations across Canada. Both numbers will go up when need be to make sure that we can serve veterans right across the country, to make sure they receive what they should receive when they should receive it. That's what we're trying to do. Now, as far as the seamless transition, I think it's fair to say it was quite seamless. The reason why it was because we had sessions. The department had sessions with employees before this transition came into play. But I'll let the deputy expand on that. But you're right.
If I could, Mr. Chair. So previous to the unrolling of this contract, there were two contracts. One focused on medical and psychosocial, and one focused on vocational. This new contract is a single contract where all of these are converged. What that does is it allows the veteran to have one plan that addresses all of those areas, a plan that will be developed with their case manager, and that will be supported by rehabilitation service experts and this list of experts who are accessible to them right across the country. We're beginning with those 9,000 experts and those points of service for those 14,000 veterans in 600 locations, as the Minister has indicated. We'll look to increase that to ensure that more service providers are there to support veterans in the communities and with the needs that they have in those communities. This provides a one-stop for the veteran with their case manager. It provides the case manager with access to people who will chase down all of the information that they need, will help book appointments, will ensure that the paperwork is in place so that there aren't any obstacles to getting those appointments and getting the follow-up appointments that are so much necessary. So it's good for the veteran in terms of access and information, and it's good for the case manager in terms of allowing them more time with a veteran.
So I want to ask you this, and will there be any case manager job losses because of this new contract? And should rehab, psychosocial, and vocational services be provided in-house by Veterans Affairs? And has Veterans ever directly provided these services in-house?
No, there will be no case managers lose their job. And Mr. Rogers, you and I talked about this in Newfoundland, about how far some people have to drive. What we did was combine the two contracts into one to make sure that the case manager just has to go to one contractor. And as the deputy said, there's about 15 or 16 hours of work per month taken away from the caseworker to make sure that the caseworker can dedicate that time to the veteran. So what I indicated many times, what we are doing with this contract is providing the service we should provide to veterans when they need it and where they need it. And you and I discussed mileage and what it could be. So it's pretty important for rural areas and smaller areas across the country to make sure we have access to a contract like this.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Ceci m'est donc fait.
This ends the first part of our meeting.
I invite you to stay. Et nous allons...
And we will suspend because there will be other witnesses arriving and we'll need to test their connection.
Fraser told me if everything is okay. So, je suspends.
I am suspending while we wait for the other.
We can now proceed the second panel of this meeting. Pursuant to Standing Order 81.5, the committee is undertaking the study of the Supplementary Estimates B 2022-2023, votes 1B and 5B under the Department of Veterans Affairs, referred to the committee on Thursday, November 17, 2022. We still have with us the Honorable Lawrence McCauley, Minister of Veteran Affairs, Paul Lidwell, Deputy Minister, Stephen Harris, Assistant Deputy Minister, Service Delivery Branch. And now we add to our witnesses Mrs. Sarah Lance, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister, Chief Financial Officer and Corporate Services Branch, Ken McKillop, Associate Deputy Minister by video conference, Ami Meunier, Assistant Deputy Minister, Commemoration and Public Affairs Branch by video conference also, and Pierre Tessier, Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic Policy, Planning and Performance Branch by video conference. Il est présentement...
It is 12:22. So I am going to give 5 minutes to the Minister to speak, and I would just like to remind the members that if we want to be able to table a report on the supplementary estimates in the House, we are going to have to reserve the last 10 minutes of this meeting to be able to discuss them and vote on them.
The Honorable Lawrence McCauley for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members, moving to supplementary estimates B. For a department like ours, where more than 90% of the budget represents payments to veterans, it's important that we conduct regular budgetary reviews to make sure that we're on track to meet the needs of our clients. Our benefits are demand-driven, so no matter how many veterans come forward, when eligible, they will receive their benefits. They're based on estimates, and the process guarantees that whenever a veteran comes to our department this year, next year, or beyond, the benefits will be available. Over the past several years, significant investments by the government and numerous changes at Veterans Affairs have resulted in a noticeable improvement in service delivery. In fact, since 2016, we have invested well over $11 billion to ensure that veterans get services and benefits when they need them. This is $2 billion per year more in the pockets of veterans than the previous government. Regarding the backlog for disability benefits, Mr. Chair, the government continues to make investments to bring it down. The $140 million we invested earlier this year is helping to continue to reduce the backlog and wait times for veterans. I'm happy to report in the past 2 years, the number of applications over the service standard have been cut by more than in half, from 23,000 in 2020 to 8,653 today. Average wait times for veterans have been reduced from 43 weeks to 25 weeks. This is a significant improvement in service from where these numbers used to be, but we all agree that there is more work to do. By next summer, we expect to have the backlog under control and be meeting our service standard. As you can see, Mr. Chair, these supplementary estimates add $78.8 million to our current year's budget, a 1.4% increase. This includes $52.9 million of the $140 million to extend disability adjudication resources. Mr. Chair, through these estimates, the department will also receive $14 million of the $43 million announced last month to allow us to retain case managers and other frontline team members who serve veterans every day. These investments in case managers allow the department to better support veterans with complex needs. Among those needs, Mr. Chair, is mental health. Last April, we launched a new mental health benefit that allows for immediate coverage for treatment for anxiety, depression, and trauma-related disorders. You will see that the estimates include include access to an $8.4 million to support development in mental health benefit programs. Since April, over 1,500 veterans have received support through this program, and many more will receive support in the coming weeks and months. The department has also been proactive in reaching out to veterans who might be vulnerable. Throughout the pandemic, thousands have received phone calls and follow-ups from Veterans Affairs Canada staff checking in on their well-being. As always, we remain grateful to our many partners across the country who work with us to support veterans on the ground and make sure former members are able to lead healthy and productive lives. Soldier On, for example, was part of bringing the Invictive Games to Vancouver Whistler in 2025. For Canada, it would be a great honour to host ill and injured veterans and still serving members from 20 nations. Over the next 3 years, the government is contributing $15 million in funding to help organizations and deliver the Games. These estimates include $2.3 million for that investment to help support the effort. I can assure you, Mr. Chair, that all members of the committee that these supplementary estimates represent an important and a necessary investment in health and well-being for our veterans and their families. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. So now I'd like to tell you that we're going to have only one round of questions of 6 minutes each, but members can split their time with their colleagues. And for the first question, I'd like to invite Mrs. Kathy Rogenthal for 6 minutes or less. Please go ahead, Mrs. Rogenthal.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here today. Appreciate it. You've mentioned the billions of dollars that are there available for veterans. However, we have had a serious issue with not being able to supply those dollars because of the backlogs. I understand that they're becoming more reasonable over time, but I just have to ask why it seems it's taking so long for VAC to understand what I hear is that case managers are saying overloaded, need more with a long-term vision for serving our veterans. And this has been a huge issue. So is there a plan to actually make sure those dollars get out the door, those programs get out the door the way that they need to, with the use of our case managers in numbers that will actually provide the needs that our veterans have?
Thank you very much, and a good question. And in fact, it's true that the backlog was large, but as I indicated, it's down to well under 8,000. We have to bring that to the national standard, and we will. Case managers, we have had a major investment in case managers and hired quite a number and made sure they remained in place for another 3-year period to make sure that we address the backlog and that veterans receive the funding that they should receive.
So my
but
understanding,
as I indicated quite clearly,
yeah, I understand what you're saying,
we do put $2 billion
Minister,
extra in the veterans' pockets than the previous
Thank
government
you,
did.
Minister.
So we are getting some money.
Minister,
Thank you.
Well, here's the thing, though. Those case managers that were brought on temporarily because the idea is we just need to deal with this problem and then it's going to disappear and go away. But clearly, our case managers are managing far more than 25 files each, and that potential will remain there. And we have veterans who, rather than getting the best service possible, have been surviving through a lot of sanctuary trauma. And I just want to bring to your attention, too, the mental health funding that you have mentioned. As you know, right now we're dealing with a horrific crisis in regard to MAID and what has been happening within VAC and its impact not just on actual individuals that are coming forward that have been impacted directly, but now indirectly there's a sense of frustration and horror about those circumstances, and yet on the one hand we're saying their mental health is so important to us. Can you tell me what is going to be done to make it very clear that MAID will no longer be considered within Veterans Affairs Canada so that mental health service can actually now basically begin to deal with an issue that has grown exponentially because of the circumstances around veterans being offered directly MAID as a means of dealing with their mental health issues.
Thank you very much. As you're aware, MAID never was and will not be anything that should be offered by Veterans Affairs Canada. It should not be offered. The MAID is dealt with between the doctor and the patient only. Veterans Affairs never did and will not be offering MAID consultations. That will not take place. Yes, you're right. There was a problem arose, and that's why I asked my deputy to conduct an investigation. And yes, to make sure that this does take every means possible to make sure that this does not happen again. And that's exactly what he did. But if we have any information, I just want to say, if you have any information that will help us to clean this up and make sure that it doesn't happen again, we want it.
Okay, I would be pleased to contribute to that. Have you asked all veterans to indicate to you directly whether or not they have been approached to consider MAID as an option for their treatment of their issues? Have you asked that question of the veterans community to please come forward if that has been the case?
What we want to make sure is that, as I said many times, what we want to make sure is that any veteran that has had anything like this happen or been offered MAID, I said it many times, to make sure that they come forward, bring the information forward so that we can deal with it, and to make sure even the RCMP, who was involved in this investigation, bring it to a complete conclusion, Minister, to make sure that veterans feel safe to come to Veterans Affairs Canada.
Can you tell me exactly what vehicle is available to them, how you've been communicating that to them, and what is the avenue they have specifically to bring forward their concerns in regard to MAID being offered to them personally?
For sure, I thank you very much. If they wish, they can contact Veterans Affairs Canada. They can contact the ombudsperson, but I would let the deputy expand on that. But we want to make sure that anybody that has any problem, please bring it forward. We need the information.
Sir?
So if I could, Mr. Chair, to your question, member, we've not sent out a specific request to every veteran in the country to come forward, asking them in result of this. But given the attention of this at committee, given the attention through the media, quite rightly, given the significance of this, I think it's been very clear that if anyone has had this experience, that we've asked them to come forward. As the minister indicated 2 weeks ago at committee, if a veteran is not comfortable coming forward to the department, either through the minister or through me as the deputy, we've invited them to come to the Ombud, an independent office, a safe place to raise this issue.
Mr. Ledwell, I'm so sorry, Mr. Wagenthal, it's over. So now let's go to MP Darrell Sanson for 6 minutes or less.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here today. It's extremely important, and we appreciate your information that you're providing us on on the various topics. Let it be the rehab, that you were able to clarify some very important facts, and now on the supplementary estimates. The word that I want to touch on is facts, and I think the facts is the key here. When I became MP in 2015, I was, very disappointed, to be very honest, that our numbers in the backlog was so high. And we invested $11 billion, and what we were doing is adding new programs to support veterans, of course, like the income replacement, the pension for life options, the well-being fund, the emergency fund. Those were key elements. But the numbers weren't going down, and I was saying, what's happening? What's causing this? And I think I got the answer. And the answer is, one, the new benefits added, more applicants. So we've seen that. The facts show that there are a lot more applicants. But the other factor, too, let's not hide from that. The former government, in 2013, 2014, before the election, cut the budgets on the back of our men and women that served. And we've seen cuts in two major areas: 9 offices right across the country. And I know I'm from Nova Scotia, and we have a large population, and we were very upset because we lost that office in Sydney. And then we've seen over 1,000 frontline employees fired. So by rehiring all those and reopening all those, there's a long time to find the personnel and the training. So those two factors is what my understanding today is, that the backlog was so big. And I maybe you can talk about that, and also the fact that we're seeing the backlog. I'm so happy. It's not enough. We need to be at 0. Get me straight, clear. We need to be at 0. But we went from 22 to 85. So tell us a little bit about how things are improving in that way, because we got to get to 0. It's crucial.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was without a question when we formed the government. We had to hire a lot of people. We had to train a lot of people. And I became minister, I indicated, number one, my main priority was to address the backlog. And we have done that to an extent, not good enough, but we have invested millions of dollars in making sure that we brought it down. And as you know, it was at 23,000, and it's now at 8,000, around 8,500. And we hope to bring it to the national standard, which won't be 0, because there are a lot of complicated cases that do take time, and everybody understands that. But we must make sure that we continue on the path we're on. But yes, there's a lot of reasons for people to apply, and new applications have increased by 50% now, sometimes higher, but now it's about 50%. So people do feel very comfortable to come to Veterans Affairs Canada, and we want to make sure that they continue to feel comfortable to come to Veterans Affairs Canada, because they deserve to receive the programs that we've had put in place in order to make sure they have a good life, as good a life as they can, because they stood up for us when we needed them.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that answer. And the second thing I heard a lot about during the 2012, 13, 14, 15 was the loss of pension for life option. They were getting a lump sum, and some of them was good for some and not so good for others, from what I understand. So we brought in that pension for life option. Can you tell me how many people, since we brought that back in, have taken advantage of this very important pension for life?
Thank you very much. A pension for life, of course, is something that I would support strongly, but there are 2 options, and of course it's up to the veteran to decide which option they want to take, and I'm sure the deputy would have figures on that, or some of my officials. Stephen?
We'll actually ask Stephen to do that.
I'll have to come back to you on the exact figures of who's taken. Pension for Life is a suite of 3 programs. It's pain and suffering compensation, additional pain and suffering compensation, and income replacement benefit. And so the number of people who've taken a lump sum versus a long-term monthly payment varies and has varied since it was coming into effect from 2019. We'd be happy to provide that number right back to you and to the committee.
Could you provide that to the chair, please? I'd appreciate if we could provide that information to the chair, which would be very important. The other change that took place about 6 months ago that we announced, which is crucial. Mental health is so important for all Canadians. It's very important for our veterans as well. But we just can't have veterans with mental health challenges wait for services. You got to get the services immediately. What have we done to support our veterans in mental health?
Thank you very much, and I think you're aware that we announced a program, $140 million, that when veterans come forward with mental health problems, they can access the funding immediately. This is so important, so that when you deal with the issue right off, it's so important. 6,000 veterans have signed up, and 1,500 are actually getting funds from this $140 million asset. So it's quite important. If you deal with the problem as soon as you can, it's a better chance of fixing the problem. That's what we feel.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Sanson. Et maintenant...
And now, Mr. Luc Desilets, you have the next 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, I just want to clarify something. from your earlier comments. You referred to in terms of the MAID case, you said it was a service provider, so it wasn't a case manager?
Si je peux cette
It was a service agent. Thank you. Next question, for you, Minister. We're going to take advantage of you while you're here. Now, there's $43.1 million to retain temporary staff. Now, we suggested here in the committee that these be permanent staff. Now, with all the uncertainty, employment uncertainty, it's always preferable to have permanent staff. And that way we can probably retain them for longer. Now, you said you partially agreed with our recommendation. Can you tell us why you only partially agreed with our recommendation and why you didn't entirely agree with it?
I thank you very much to Mr. Desailly, and my responsibility is to make sure we have the people in place to serve the veterans as timely as possible, and that's what I have done and that's why we have the extra funding for the caseworkers to make sure they can continue on doing what they do. As you're fully aware, we're on the right path, but we haven't gotten there yet. We need to reduce the backlog to the national standard, and we will do that by next summer, but it's a task. We have to make sure we do it. But you're also fully aware, I know, that we implemented a lot of programs. You fully agree with those programs, and they're vitally important to veterans too.
Je vous pose la question autrement.
I'll put the question in another way. Do you not believe that having permanent employees, permanent positions, would be more attractive than temporary positions? Just please answer yes or no, just like in the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Desailly. As you know, as I indicated, my responsibility is to make sure we have the people in place to serve the veterans when they need to be served, and that is what I will continue to do.
Vous feriez un bon politicien, monsieur.
Well, you would make a good politician. Anyway, Mr. Harris, on the 27th of October, you stated that the department's goal was to reduce the backlog down to 5,000 by March 2022. Now, we have some numbers. The minister gave us different numbers, but the only numbers we have currently do not reflect that. We're not talking about 8,500. It's actually 10,044. So what's happening? Is it the resources, the money that's lacking? Well, we're at about 8,600. Then where did you get that number? Because we don't have that number. These are numbers that are published, but sometimes they're published later. They're published on our website. But I can give you today's number, and today's number is about 8,653. So that's today's number. Yes, well, that's fantastic then if that's the case. Except that, you see, we work with the numbers we have, and that's absolutely not what we have right now. Now, would it be realistic to expect zero? Do you think that would be realistic? Well, you never get to zero in a backlog, and the reason is this. Our service standard is 83% over 16 weeks. And why? Because there are some very complex cases out there. Sometimes there's a delay in information. Sometimes the file is very complex. So there are always going to be some files that take longer than 16 weeks. Thank you. Now, you said you would like this to go down to 5,000. But there are requests and applications coming in. Does that remain constant over time? Yes, but it can change. You know, we're always keeping an eye out. We're looking at monthly levels, annual levels, in order to make sure that we have enough capacity to meet the needs. But we always encourage veterans to submit their applications as soon as they're ready. Now, I have no reason to doubt you, but if it is 8,600 right now, does that mean that over the past few weeks and months, less applications have come in? Because we have to maintain a certain number of people to deal with this. So were there less applications? No. We have more people to make the decisions on these applications. That's why it's going down. Okay, then explain, please. So you have this standard, 80%. Why? I was in teaching previously, and we try and maintain a very high standard. We try and set very high targets and realistic targets. So if it's not realistic to have a 100% target, then what can we do? And why not? We want to be the best. Well, about 2 years ago, we managed 30% for decision-making within 16 weeks. And then it went up to 60%. So it gets better and better. We're not where we want to be yet. We have a lot of work still to do. But we're managing to come forward with many more decisions now, and that's going to help us get to the service standard. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Desilets. Right on time.
The last question, I'd like to invite Ms. Rachel Bliney for 6 minutes or less. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair. So I do want to get back to the fact that the AG did a report in May of 2022 that was quite concerning to me. She expressed very clearly that the service standard has not been met in 7 years, that 80% of veterans applying for disability benefits for the first time were waiting about 39 weeks, which of course is a lot longer than the service standard of 16 weeks. But what I found most compelling and fascinating about the report was the fact that the AG, the Auditor General, said repeatedly that the data collection in VAC was so poor that it's impossible to identify where the bottlenecks are, or if the solutions that are being proposed or the resources putting into the system are actually working in a meaningful way. That concerns me a lot, because this is the very core of accountability, is having a data system that is clear enough to know that if an improvement is offered, if an announcement is made, that it's actually going to mean something substantive for veterans. So I'm just wondering if there's any discussions happening at the department around cleaning up this data collection system so that bottlenecks can be identified, and when there is an actual solution proposed, there's a way of measuring if it's actually fixing the problem that the announcement around dollars has said it will.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and we're always working to improve our systems no matter what, and we will continue to do that. But there's no question that we have made major investments into the backlog. We haven't gotten to where we should be and will be, but we will be there by next summer, and that's a commitment we made, and that's a commitment we will meet. We want to make sure that veterans receive it in a timely manner. Now,
but sir, I'm not. I don't want to interrupt, and I definitely don't want to hurt the interpreters by arguing over one another. I really just want to know clearly, is there any discussions about addressing the issue of data, which is such a major problem?
I'll let the deputy respond to that, but as I said, continually we're working to make sure we have the proper systems in place. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The short answer is yes. There are extensive discussions going on, both within the department and with other parts of government who are equally challenged with reporting on and tracking data. In addition to the investment around personnel, the department is making significant investment around automation and digitization, as well as process improvement. One of the great benefits that we have now that is increasing in its use is the number of veterans who come forward through a MyVac account. It allows for the assurance that the applications are complete, that the information is connected, and that it's more easily tracked. And that, frankly, builds up our ability to track each of those applications as they go through the system, to understand where the perennial and organizational challenges may be, and how we can invest and correct those challenges. That's a very active undertaking to make the process more seamless for the veteran and to make the process more smooth within the department.
Thank you. So I will assume then that the next time we see an Auditor General's report, there will be a substantive change. I will wait for that. So I guess I just want to come back to this one part, though, which is the fact that from 2019 to 2020, 8% lapse, almost at 9% lapse spending for Veterans Affairs between 2020 to 2021, 11.6%. Just to give people a sense of that, that's over $630 million that was there in the department that was not spent. So there obviously seems to be resources there. I'm just wondering why these resources were not used to address the data concern, because I figure you'd probably be able to get a pretty good system with that kind of money. And I also want to recognize, and I'm going to give you a very short time to answer this, that still with the marriage after 60, which you all know that I'm going to continue to fight forever, because I think it is absolutely wrong that a veteran finds someone who loves them and will care for them in their aging years, has nothing to leave for their survivor. We know that the funds for this Veteran Survivor Fund, still nothing going to survivors. So when there's that kind of resources, one, why aren't we seeing that invested in data so that those systems are fixed, so that veterans have transparency and we know where the problem is? And two, that people, survivors of veterans who have cared for and loved veterans for many, many years in some cases, actually get a little bit of support instead of living in destitute poverty.
Ms. Blaney, I think on the first issue, you know very well what the answer is. Of course, there has to always be enough of funding there to make sure that we provide the funding for the veteran when the veteran applies. And the problem is it's a lot of money and a lot of money returned, but we have to always be sure that that money is there. And that money is not lost. That money is there for the next year and the next year to make sure that the veteran receives the benefit that they should receive.
Okay. Thank you for that. I hear the answer in that question. So my last question is just if I could have an explanation about why VAC is the only federal department whose main office is not in Ottawa. Why is that the case? And what is the impact of that?
Thank you very much. It works very well in Charlottetown, and I think Veterans Affairs Canada work with thousands of staff, do an awful lot to make sure they improve the lives of veterans. They have and will continue to do that. Thank you so much. And if I am leaving, I just want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do both, because I have an appointment on Friday that I cannot miss, Thursday I cannot miss, but I also want to thank everybody on the committee and the veterans that are here for coming here, because it's so important. We're all working together to make it better, and thanks to everybody.
Yes, thank you so much, Minister, but please stay for a few minutes because we have to vote on the supplementary estimate. And well, first of all, we have two options. We can vote either on 1B, operating expenditure, it's $1,227,000,000, on 5B, grants and contributions for $4,223,000,000. Doesn't make sense. No? That's what I have there.
No, that's the total to date.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to vote.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'm so sorry. Just a minute. And, well, excuse me, we are going to have to vote on 1B. 1B is 62 million, sorry, and 5B, sorry, it's 2 million. So I invite members if we can vote on both of them or separately.
I'm happy to do both on division.
OK. Merci.
Thank you.
Donc, voilà. Alors.
In that case, votes 1B and 5B under Veterans Affairs are adopted on division.
Puis-je faire rapport d'écrit?
Can I report on the votes to the House?
Est-ce que les membres acceptent?
Do the members accept that I report to the House this afternoon? Yes, thank you very much. Then that's what we will do. And on that, I'd like to thank all the witnesses who came today to this committee meeting. And for the second part, on the supplementary estimates, I want to thank the Honourable Lawrence Macaulay, Minister for Veterans Affairs, and the witnesses from the Veterans Affairs, Mr. Paul Ledwell, Deputy Minister, Mr. Stephen Harris, Assistant Deputy Minister, Service Delivery Branch, Sarah Lance, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister, Chief Financial Officer and Corporate Services Branch, and on Zoom, Mr. Ken McKillop, Associate Deputy Minister, Ms. Amy Meunier, Assistant Deputy Minister, Commemoration and Public Affairs Branch, and last but not least, Pierre Tessier, Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic Policy, Planning and Performance Branch. And I'd also like to thank our entire team today, the technical team, the interpretation team, our clerks. Is it the will of the committee to adjourn?